Whenever a question is asking us to generate an equation based on a story, we want to make sure that we understand the story in the most intuitive way possible. So that's where the arithmetize strategy really helps out. This is where we take variables or unknowns that are in a question and we just come up with a number for them to help us understand how the numbers change. So with a story, we want to pick numbers that are convenient. So in this case, they say for a training program, Juan rides his bike at an average rate of 5.7 minutes per mile. Which function m models the number of minutes it will take Juan to ride x miles at this rate? Well, the simplest thing is, well, just use the rate they gave us. They say 5.7 minutes per mile. So how long will it take to go 1 mile? Well, 5.7 minutes. So in a way, I'm kind of coming up with a point here. And the point is, if it's an x m point, right? It's kind of weird, but it still matches. We have then x is 1 and m is 5.7. Now look, that's the most straightforward point, and it might not work. It might not give me one single answer, but it will certainly help me kind of like cut things down a little bit and understand it. So let's see. If I plug in 1 for x in choice A, I would have 1 over 5.7, and that's supposed to equal 5.7. Now, you should know that that's not how fractions work. If something is over 1, then we're good, but 1 over 5.7, you can put that in your calculator. It's a very different number. So the point that we understand from our story doesn't match with this equation, therefore this equation must not accurately reflect what's going on in the story. If we do the same thing to B, we would get 1 plus 5.7, and that's 6.7, and that's supposed to be 5.7, so obviously there's a problem here. They do not equal each other. They're not what they're supposed to be, so this is also an incorrect equation. The same thing's going to happen with C. 1 minus 5.7 is negative, oh goodness, it's late, negative 4 point, is it 4.7 or 4.3? Oh my gosh. Let me just do it. 1 point minus 5.7 is negative 4.7. Yeah, it's late here where I am making movies. And so that also clearly does not work, but here's some math I can do in my head. 1 times 5.7 is 5.7. So this is the only equation that they give us that lets it fit that fits the point that we would expect. Now we could have chosen other points as long as they make sense in the story. So if we had wanted to go 2 miles instead, we would have needed to do a little bit of math to understand, like, okay, what would happen or how long would it take? It would be 5.7 times 2. So 5.7 times 2 would give us 11.4. And the same thing, that point will work in this choice D. But, you know, if you're given the opportunity to kind of choose an easier point that involves less mental work, less math, then start with that. It might not work. Like I said at the beginning, it might mean that we have multiple answers that fit that point, and so we might need to choose a new point anyway. But in this case, we didn't need to. So why not take the lazier route, see if it works? As long as you check your answer or check your point in every answer choice, you are good. If it only works in one, you're good. If it works in multiple, you got to choose a new point. And that's why you have to check every point. But this is basic arithmetize here. The world is easier to understand when we have specific numbers. So sometimes we make up specific numbers to better understand a question. We don't think about algebra in the real world very often, so why think about it in a question that's about the real world on the SAT?